At 80, I've learned a lot about life, but there's one decision I deeply regret: not building friendships outside my family. This isn't easy to admit, but I wish someone had told me the truth before it was too late. At the time, it seemed like the natural choice. My family was my world, and I believed their love would always be enough. Many of you might be thinking the same thing now, focusing on your children and grandchildren, assuming their presence will fill every need. But once you commit to that path, you realize the reality is nothing like what you imagined. Before you take that step, I want to share 6 hard truths I wish someone had told me, because life without those external connections changes everything. The impact is subtle at first, a quiet erosion you barely notice until it's become your landscape. Stay with me until the end, because some of these lessons might surprise you. And if you know someone who's relying solely on family, this video might be exactly what they need to hear before making a life-changing decision. Once you go down that path, building those bonds isn't as simple as you think. Now let's get started. The first hard truth I want to share is this: family's love is invaluable, but it cannot be your only social connection. For so many years, I truly believed my children and grandchildren would always be enough. I remember those Sunday dinners, the house bustling with laughter, the clinking of plates, the stories shared around a crowded table. My heart felt full, surrounded by their warmth. I thought, what more could a person ask for? Every birthday, every holiday, they were there, and it felt like an impenetrable fortress against loneliness. I felt safe, connected, and utterly fulfilled in those moments. But what I didn't realize was that even the deepest family love has its own rhythms and limitations. As the years turned into decades, those rhythms began to shift. My children, bless their hearts, had their own lives to live. Their careers grew, their children had children, and suddenly, their days were as packed as mine once were. The spontaneous visits became less frequent, replaced by dutiful, but often rushed, phone calls. I saw their calendars fill up with school plays, soccer games, and work commitments. It wasn't that they stopped loving me, life just got in the way. The bustling dining room slowly grew quieter, the laughter faded, and I found myself sitting alone more often, clutching the phone, wondering if today was a good day to call, not wanting to intrude on their precious time. And that's when I started to understand the unique role friends play, a role family, for all its love, simply cannot fill. Friends offer a different kind of companionship, a peer-to-peer connection. With a friend, you share without the underlying current of family obligation or the fear of burdening your loved ones. You can talk about things, small joys, quiet anxieties, even silly observations, without feeling like you're adding to their load. Friends often share a history that's just yours, outside the family narrative, and they understand aspects of your life that even your children might not. It's a freedom, a sense of being truly seen by someone who isn't trying to care for you, but simply to be with you. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. So I ask you, are you truly prepared for the quiet? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once their lives inevitably become busier, an invaluable buffer against loneliness, the kind only diverse friendships can provide, might be missing. Without those external bonds, the world can feel surprisingly small and eerily silent. Take a moment to consider how much you rely on your family for all your social needs. Is that truly sustainable? Now, for the second hard truth I wish someone had told me. When you rely solely on family for your social circle, you slowly lose out on shared interests and new perspectives. I remember countless family dinners filled with familiar stories and updates about the grandchildren. And that was lovely, truly. But I started to notice that our conversations often circled back to the same comfortable topics: our shared history, family milestones, or worries about the future. There was rarely a fresh idea, a new hobby introduced, or a differing viewpoint that truly challenged my way of thinking. I'd sometimes look at the half-finished knitting project in my basket, or the unread gardening book on the table, and realize I had no one outside my immediate family who shared those specific interests, no one to explore them with. It was a subtle stagnation, a quiet narrowing of my world. It's like I had different selves that never really got to bloom. There was a book club Clara, who loved discussing novels, a travel bug Clara, who dreamed of new places, or even a community activist Clara, who wanted to make a difference. But these parts of me, they faded, because there was no one to bring them out. My family saw me as a mother, a grandmother, and that's a beautiful thing, but it's not tar of who I am. I recall a new neighbor, Sarah, who moved in a few years ago. She had a vibrant energy, always talking about her painting classes and local volunteer work. I'd chat with her for a moment, and I'd feel a spark, a tiny flicker of my own forgotten interests. But without a history, without that existing bridge of friendship, the connection never blossomed into something more. It was a glimpse of the person I could have been, if only I'd nurtured those other facets of myself through diverse friendships. I started observing others around me, especially those seniors who seemed so full of life. They were at the community center, laughing over a game of cards, deeply engrossed in a discussion at a history club, or tending to a vibrant shared garden plot. I'd see them at local events, surrounded by friends, their faces alight with conversation and shared enjoyment. They had a community beyond blood, a network of people who engaged with different parts of them. They weren't just living, they were thriving, constantly learning and growing. And it struck me, profoundly, that their lives felt so much richer, so much more engaged than my own. While I was often alone in my cozy living room, they were out there, weaving themselves into the vibrant tapestry of the world. It wasn't that my life was bad, but it was quieter, more insular. And I realized that vibrant community wasn't just handed to them. They had built it, piece by piece, friend by friend. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Now ask yourself, honestly, is your world big enough? Does your current social circle, even with the immense love of your family, truly provide enough variety and stimulation for all the different parts of who you are? Because while a small world might feel safe and comfortable, it can also become incredibly confining, slowly limiting your horizons without you even realizing it. Truth number 3, and this one often stays unspoken, the burden of unshared confidences. At home, late at night, when the house grew quiet and my own thoughts grew loud, I often felt a deep ache, a longing for a different kind of ear. There were moments, worries, even small joys, that felt too heavy or too trivial to share with my children. I didn't want to burden them, or perhaps I didn't want them to worry. I imagined having a friend, a peer, someone outside the family circle, a neutral ear who understood without judgment, someone with whom I could truly let my guard down. That space, that kind of connection, was missing, and the weight of those unspoken thoughts often felt immense. It's a natural instinct, isn't it, to want to appear strong for your family, to protect them from your own fears or anxieties. I remember countless times holding back, biting my tongue, putting on a brave face so my children wouldn't worry. If I shared a small health concern, they might overreact. If I mentioned feeling lonely, they might feel guilty. You learn to filter, to present a version of yourself that causes the least concern. But this protection comes at a cost. It means you carry your burdens alone, even when surrounded by those who love you most. It means you sacrifice your own need for vulnerability to maintain an image of strength. I've seen this silent suffering in others too. At the park, I'd watch elderly men and women sitting alone, their eyes holding stories they couldn't or wouldn't share. There was Arthur, a kind man who lived down the street. After his wife passed, he slowly withered. His children lived far away, and while they called often, he had no one to share his daily routines with, no one to reminisce with over a cup of coffee. I'd see him walking his dog, his head bowed, and I knew that unspoken loneliness, that burden of carrying everything inside, was slowly consuming him. His family loved him, I know they did, but they couldn't be there for every quiet moment, for every small thought he needed to voice. So I ask you now, as you listen to my words, who holds your unspoken stories? Who can you truly be vulnerable with, without reservation, without the fear of burdening them or making them feel obligated. A trusted friend, someone who understands your generation and your journey, offers a unique kind of support. They are an invaluable sounding board, a confidant who can lighten your emotional load and offer perspective that family simply cannot. Don't underestimate the irreplaceable value of having someone outside your immediate circle to share your deepest self with, for your mental and emotional well-being depends on it. Truth number 4 is about the missed opportunities for personal growth. I always thought that as long as I kept my mind active with books and television, I was still learning. But I've come to realize that's not entirely true. I'd sit here in my living room, reading the newspaper, and an interesting article about local history or a new scientific discovery would catch my eye. I'd think, oh, that's fascinating. But then, who would I talk to about it? My children are wonderful, but their interests are different, and their lives are busy. I missed having someone to truly dissect an idea with, someone who might challenge my perspective or introduce a whole new viewpoint. Friends do that, don't they? They stretch your mind in ways family often doesn't. It wasn't just about intellectual discussions either. I remember seeing flyers for a gentle dance class at the community center, or a local group organizing a day trip to a nearby botanical garden. My first thought was always, that sounds lovely. My second, who would I go with? In my younger days, I'd just call up a friend, and we'd be off. There was a confidence in having a companion, a shared sense of adventure. Now, the idea of walking into a room full of strangers alone, or trying something completely new by myself, felt daunting. I'd picture myself watching others laugh and interact, a quiet longing stirring inside. That hesitation, that lack of a familiar face to share the newness with, kept me from venturing beyond my comfortable, familiar walls. What I didn't fully grasp then, but see so clearly now, is that friends aren't just for fun or conversation. They are vital for keeping your mind sharp and your spirit resilient. When you're regularly engaging with different people, adapting to various social situations, and learning from diverse perspectives, it keeps your brain active. I've seen it in others, those with rich social lives. They seem to navigate setbacks with more grace. Their minds stay flexible, and they have a certain spark in their eyes. It's like tending a garden. If you only plant one type of flower, it's beautiful. But a variety of plants makes it truly vibrant and robust. A diverse circle of friends cultivates a resilient mind and spirit, helping you adapt and thrive, even as life inevitably changes. So if you're watching this, I want you to ask yourself, are you still growing? Does your world feel like it's expanding with new ideas and experiences, or has it started to contract, becoming smaller and more predictable? It's easy to settle into a routine, especially as we get older, but continuous learning and new experiences are like fuel for your mind and soul. And often, it's those connections outside of family that spark the most surprising, most enriching growth. Don't let your curiosity fade because you lack a companion to share it with. Now, for the 5th hard truth, one that often brings a quiet sigh when I think of it. Building new, deep friendships becomes incredibly difficult as you get older. When we were younger, didn't it feel almost effortless? Friendships blossomed from shared classrooms, office cubicles, or play dates with our children. They were born out of proximity and necessity. But as those natural gathering places fade away, schools behind us, careers concluded, our children grown, the landscape changes dramatically. The simple opportunities to meet new people, to forge those easy, organic connections, dwindle to a quiet, almost empty space. It's a stark reality that hits harder the longer you've relied solely on family. It's not just the external opportunities that disappear. We ourselves change. We become, quite naturally, more set in our ways, perhaps a little less open to the unfamiliar. The comfort of our routines, the quiet rhythm of our days, can become a wall, even if we don't realize we're building it. Then there are the practical challenges. Mobility might not be what it once was, limiting how easily we can attend new groups or activities. And truly, building trust, sharing your life's journey with someone new, that takes time, a precious commodity that feels more finite with each passing year. It's a slow, delicate dance, and sometimes the energy just isn't there for the first steps. I remember a woman I met at the grocery store years ago, perhaps 10 or 15 years back. We bonded over a love for baking bread, shared a few recipes, even exchanged numbers. I thought, I should call her for a coffee sometime. But life, as it does, got in the way. My grandchildren were visiting that week, then I had a doctor's appointment, and before I knew it, weeks turned into months. I saw her once or twice more, a quick wave, a promise to connect, but I never made that call. Now she's no longer in the neighborhood, and the chance is gone. That's the echo of missed chances. Time is not infinite, and opportunities to connect, truly connect, don't always repeat themselves. We often think, there's always tomorrow, but sometimes tomorrow arrives, and the person or the opportunity has simply vanished. So I have to ask you, with all sincerity, are you waiting too long? Are you actively cultivating new connections? Or are you passively waiting for friendships to appear, perhaps assuming they'll just happen like they did when you were younger? Complacency can be a silent thief of joy. Because once those years of ease are behind you, once you're truly set in your ways, and those natural social landscapes have faded, the difficulty of building those deep, enriching bonds increases with each passing year. It's a challenge I wish I had faced head-on decades ago, and one I urge you to consider today. I've shared 5 hard truths already, but there's one more, perhaps the most difficult to articulate, because it's not about losing something tangible, but about a quiet, persistent ache. This is Truth 6, the unspoken regret and its shadow. Despite the love of my family, despite a comfortable home, there is a lingering, indefinable sense of something missing. It's a quiet sadness that settles in the evenings, a feeling that my life, while full of family, wasn't as rich or as expansive as it could have been. It's like a phantom limb, the persistent sensation of friendships that never quite formed, experiences that were never shared. It's the constant what if of a broader, more connected existence. This unspoken regret often manifests as watching life from the sidelines. I imagine a lively community event, perhaps a local concert in the park, or a busy market square. I see people laughing, sharing stories, simply being together in easy companionship, and I realize, with a pang, that I have no natural group to join, no friend to greet with a familiar smile. My family is dear, but they have their own circles, their own lives to lead. So I stand on the periphery, an observer rather than a participant, watching others weave themselves into the fabric of daily life. It's a feeling of being present, yet profoundly apart. And then, there's the legacy you leave behind. When I look at old photographs of my younger self, I often wonder about the story my life tells. A life rich in diverse friendships, full of shared adventures and confidences, creates a broader, more interesting narrative, doesn't it? It leaves behind not just a family, but a tapestry of connections, a community that remembers you in different ways. I think about how my children might see my life. Was it fulfilled, vibrant, connected to the wider world, or was it quietly confined, centered almost exclusively on them? The choices we make about our friendships, or the lack thereof, shape not only our own experience, but also the enduring story of who we were. So I ask you, my dear friends, will your story be one of rich connections or quiet solitude? Are you cultivating a life that will be remembered for its breadth and depth of relationships, or one that, despite all the love, carries the shadow of unspoken regret? This choice shapes not just your present comfort, but your entire life narrative and how you will be remembered. It's about more than just avoiding loneliness. It's about crafting a life that truly feels complete. Looking back, my regret isn't about the love my family gave me. Their love has been a steady anchor throughout my life. My regret, the deep, quiet ache I've carried, is for the richness and breadth of friendships I never cultivated outside that precious circle. I believed family would always be enough, and in many ways, they were. But they couldn't be everything. They couldn't be the friends who shared a silly laugh over a forgotten memory, or the confidants for worries I didn't want to burden them with. But here's the most important thing I want you to hear, and it's something I tell myself every day now. It is truly never too late to start. Your story isn't over. and neither is your capacity for connection. You might be thinking, Clara, I'm too old for new friends, or I don't even know where to begin. And I understand that feeling completely. But sometimes, the biggest impacts come from the smallest steps. Think about that local community center you've driven past 100 times. Maybe they have a book club, a walking group, or even a simple craft class. Or perhaps there's an old acquaintance, someone from a long-ago job or a neighbor from decades past, whose number you still have. A simple phone call, a quick hello, could be the spark. Volunteering for a cause you care about is another wonderful way to meet like-minded people. These aren't grand gestures, but they are seeds, and even one new seed can grow into a beautiful, sheltering tree. The life you live, the stories you tell, and the connections that define you are still being written. Don't let circumstance dictate the richness of your later years. Be intentional about cultivating those external friendships, because they are an invaluable treasure. They offer perspective, laughter, solace, and a sense of belonging that truly makes your world feel bigger, brighter, and more resilient. Thank you for joining me today and listening to my story. I hope these truths have inspired you. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are so important to us. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you.